supporting this amazing message that we're trying to bring to the nation. It's a national coalition movement across the country. Organizations all over are celebrating this event today. That is National Transit Equity Day. We have some amazing speakers coming up, and they're going to turn me off so I can go up there. So we're going to switch microphones. We're going to let them break down because we can't turn on the other one until this goes off. Everyone turn your attention to the stage up there, and we will have some fantastic speakers, starting with Justin Cummings, City Council member of Santa Cruz. Thank you so much. And one more hand for Sonic Architects. They're amazing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. We like trains, we like rails, we like bikes and silly doggy tails. I have a dog. We've got Youth for Climate Justice, we've got Friends of the Rail and Trail, we've got the Black Student Union, we've got a number of fantastic sponsors, including Santa Cruz for Bernie, but you can see on our beautiful banner here all of the sponsors that we have supporting this event and coming out in support of transit equity. Thank you. All right, so what is today all about? Educate, agitate, and organize. So what we did today is we organized at the beginning, which is to bring everyone together to share the awareness of the importance of public transportation to our community and to our country. This country's kind of behind in that regards. The second thing we're going to do is educate, and so we have a lot of great people out here, a lot of great booths. Make sure you get to know them, get some materials, get some information, because when we're all done here at the end of the day, well, it's a lot of fun and it's great to listen to Sonic Architect all day long. But if we're going to make change, we actually have to take the next step, and that is going from organization and education to action. And that's going to happen after today. So you're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to hear a lot of people speak, a lot of great speakers. And then I would urge you after today to get in touch and get on board. You can sign up for Friends of the Rail Trail and any other of these organizations that are here today and be in action with us for transit equity that serves everyone. I want to note that today is named in honor of Rosa Parks' birthday. So today's February 4th. It's Rosa Parks' birthday. Thank you. Give it up for that amazing woman who made such a commitment and resistance. And resistance is a big part of what we need to be doing, right? Because there's things happening even now across the country, even here in this county, that they're trying to slip things past us, folks. And if we don't get out there and resist, and we don't actually get in action and ring the bell, bring the light, bring the sunlight to what's going on, it's not going to change, right? You know what I'm talking about.
No way, Greenway!
No way, Greenway. Thank you. Yes. All right. I just want to also say that our national sponsor is Labor Network for Sustainability. So give a hand to Labor Network for Sustainability. They're the ones that are basically, they are making this is a coalition movement of organizations across the United States, like NAACP and Labor Justice and environmental organizations, civil rights organizations are all coming together to make this happen and make it a movement across the United States. This is the first time we've celebrated it here, and I'm so excited we've got this amazing turnout for the very first ever Transit Equity Day in Santa Cruz County. All right, so what is the purpose of this event? We in this United States, our public transportation system is in crisis. Now, if you, like many of us, are privileged and you have a car and you have access to 1 or 2 cars, you don't feel it. You may not feel that crisis. But if you don't have access to public transportation and you don't have money to buy a car, you really feel that crisis. And there's a lot of people in our communities today, now, that are feeling that crisis. And that crisis began in the 1940s and 1950s. So it's really important to bring awareness and education around that so that we can change it and understand where our country came from and where we want to go. One of the things that I talk about in this country, we had the #1 public transportation system in the world. You believe that? In the United States. We had the #1 public transportation system in the world. We were the leaders. We really are proud of being leaders, and we did a lot. But then what happened was at the same time that we were building this amazing public transportation system, some of the most amazing rail systems and busing systems that got people to work and to school, at the same time, civil rights leaders in the 1800s, late 1800s, and early 1900s were fighting for their right to access public transportation. People were risking their safety and their lives to ride the buses, to ride the trains, and to be on board and have equal rights. And that's why Rosa Parks is honored, because all of us know that Rosa Parks was that critical juncture that actually brought civil rights to transit in a way that stuck. But there were a lot of civil rights leaders and activists who worked before her, right? 100 years. They spent 100 years fighting for civil rights and to be able to ride public transportation. And then what happened, right? So you have Homer Plessy, you have a number of people. And then what happened? In the 1940s and 1950s, we had a shift. And all of a sudden, we had this is post-World War II. We had the automobile industry, the rubber tire industry. We had what else? We had the concrete, the asphalt industry. We had the trucking industry, petroleum, thank you. All of these folks came together and they worked with the government, and they basically systematically destroyed our public transportation systems across the country. LA had the Red Line. Go look at the trolleys. They're amazing. All over the country. And what happened was that these industries worked with the government, and they put huge slabs of highways spanning that basically cut communities, black from white, poor from rich. And all of a sudden, the wealthy people, they could get to work, they could get to school, great. But what about the black communities, the brown communities, the people in poverty? They did not have access to a car, and now they no longer had access to public transportation. So in one decade, civil rights, all the work that the civil rights leaders did was basically systematically destroyed. And this systematized racism and classism in one decade, the work that was done over 100 years. So fast forward in 2018, when this whole movement started, and then COVID, all of a sudden the crisis in our public transportation system just blew up. And during COVID, there were people nursing, our essential workers, they couldn't get to work because they were cutting the already poor public transportation systems. I have a friend, she wanted to speak today, but she's blind. She has a blind dog, guide dog, and she couldn't be here because her guide dog is sick. But she goes to medical appointments, lives on the west side, goes to her appointments in Capitola. It takes her 2.5 hours to take the bus. And the thing that I share about her story is that she doesn't really have access to paratransit. A lot of people that have disabilities don't want to ride paratransit. They want freedom. They want independence. We have UCSC students here, all of us. We want access to freedom and independence and opportunity, jobs, education, so that people can rise up and get the jobs and the opportunities they want. Okay, I'm rattling on. Let me go a little bit further. I appreciate your patience because to me, this is so important. So this movement, as I said before, is civil rights leaders that came together with labor leaders and environmental organizations. Why? because this issue impacts our environment tremendously. Across the globe, all of the summit leaders are saying the same thing. We have to get rid of cars. We have to lessen our cars. We have to bring rail and trolleys and buses, and we need to minimize the amount of cars. We need to stop widening highways. And this is not my words. Yeah, give it up. Stop widening highways. Thank you. Okay, these are not my words. This was in the summit in November. Big summit in, sorry, my brain's not working, but you know what I'm talking about, the global summit. Where was it? Glasgow. Thank you. The global summit in Glasgow. I'm watching videos and I'm listening to the people talk, and they're talking my talk. I'm like, you got to come to Santa Cruz because we're not listening here in this town. All right. So I'm going to go to the second word, agitate. So we've got organized. We're all organized. Educate. We've got some education going on. Now I'm going to agitate a little bit. And you know what? When you try to make change, you have to agitate. And a lot of people really get peed off about that. They get pissed off because they want to do what they want to do. But we've got to agitate. So what am I going to say here that I'm going to agitate? We have an opportunity in this town to have one of the best electric rail systems in the country now today. Thank you. That rail system would give opportunity and equal access to our working class folks, our students, our city of Watsonville, that is such an important part of our community, that they can then come from Watsonville and work here. People can work here and live here or go to Watsonville. We can get attached to the state rail plan and basically eventually take a train all the way from Santa Cruz to Monterey on the rail. Hello?
Yeah.
Not only that, the state rail plan is going to connect cities across the state of California. So eventually you'll be able to go from Santa Cruz to Monterey, to San Jose, to San Francisco, and then head out on the Zephyr to Chicago, which is a beautiful ride. So I just want to remind everybody, because some people don't know this, we actually own these tracks, and we actually all voted Proposition 116. And what did Proposition 116 say? Proposition 116 was the Clean Air and Transportation Act, and we voted to purchase these tracks. We voted for the proposition so that we could purchase the tracks specifically for passenger rail. Right? You guys want passenger rail? Give it up for passenger rail.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, guess what? This is really exciting. We're building a trail. We are building it right now. We've got segments happening. We were marching on it today. We've got another segment 5 that's going from Natural Bridges to Davenport ground is going to be broken now in just a year or two, 2023, 2024. We've got a whole segment that's in EIR that goes from Live Oak to State Park. And we're fighting at the same time to bring rail. So we purchased these tracks, and not long after those tracks were purchased to build rail, we had a couple of groups. That was in 2012, folks. 2012, we purchased the tracks, and just a couple years later, we had these groups that come into town. They actually, not all of them, the founders of the groups didn't actually grow up here or live here or were part of the movement to build the tracks and passenger rail, but they kind of glommed together and they started to try to undermine our work. And guess what? These people are pretty darn wealthy, right? Seems to be the state of things. And so that's what we're fighting right now. I just want to say this last week was Hell Week, which is why I don't have a really good speech written for you guys. I was in every meeting, Board of Supervisors, RTC meetings, and I can tell you that these people right now on Thursday morning, they are trying to slip in a new whole segment of highway widening between State Park and Freedom Boulevard. Okay? So, some of us, I think even some of the people that work with the RTC, not all the RTC are bad people. Some of them are really good people. But some folks here are trying to stop the rails and do more highway widening. So we need to educate each other about that. And then the next thing is get active. We need to get involved. We need to raise the noise level on this situation. and say, "No way, Greenway!
No way, Greenway!
No way, Greenway!
No way, Greenway!
No way, Greenway!"
No way, Greenway!
Woo! Thank you, everybody. We're going to have some great speakers coming up. Get involved, get in action, find out how. We've got Justin Cummings, Tamara Minami Posner, Felipe Hernandez, Mary Offman, G Speed, Foster Anderson, Vanessa Quiroz Carter, Tyree Ritchie, Michael Wool, and all of you folks. Thank you so much. We'll start off with Justin Cummings, our city council member.
And thank you all for being here today and demonstrating your commitment to rail and transit equity in our community. My name is Justin Cummings. I'm an environmental scientist at UCSC, city council member, former mayor of the city of Santa Cruz. I'm also a candidate for the 3rd District County Supervisor. And I want us to all take a moment to have a round of applause to celebrate Rosa Parks' birthday today.
Yay!
I also want to acknowledge some people here in the audience. We have Sandy Brown, City of Santa Cruz City Council. We have Shepard Kalantari Johnson, City of Santa Cruz City Council member. We have Vanessa Quiroz Carter, newly elected City of Watsonville City Council member. We have Felipe Hernandez, Cabrillo College trustee and former Mayor of Watsonville. And then we also have former Mayor Mike Rockin here in the audience as well, City of Santa Cruz. And if there's any other electeds, I might not be able to recognize you under the mask, but want to thank everyone for being here today. And I wanted to start briefly by saying one thing, which was a story. I was over at the parish one night, and this woman who I see there frequently, who's a bit older, in her 70s, and she came up to me and she said, "You know, I hope you're supporting the rail because I would like to be able to enjoy this trail too, and I don't see myself getting on a bike and biking from here to Watsonville, but I tell you what, I'd love to be able to get on a train over here on the west side and go have lunch over in Capitola and enjoy the view that everybody else gets to share by taking that trail." And that's part of why I'm committed to making sure the rail is an opportunity for our community. For those of you who don't know me very well, I'm originally from Chicago, which was and still is the nation's rail transit hub. Throughout my life, there have been many times when I, like many of you, either chose to not or couldn't afford to own a car and had to rely on alternative forms of transportation. Biking, skateboarding, walking were all means for getting around locally, but when needing to travel further, public transit was the next best option when it was available. This is the story of many low-income people throughout our community, and learning how to navigate around without a car is probably one of the best things we can be taught in life. It teaches us patience. It teaches us how to manage our time wisely. It provides us with an opportunity to meet new people from different backgrounds. It gives us time to sit back and read a book or do work while we travel. It gives us an opportunity to get some fresh air and exercise when we're getting to and from our house and to those bus stops. And honestly, it allows us to save money because a monthly bus pass or train pass costs a lot less than gas, car maintenance, and insurance. More than anything, it also lets us know that we're doing our part to reduce congestion on our roadways and reduce our carbon footprint, because the last thing we need is for cars to be sitting in traffic jams, pumping more CO2 into our atmosphere. I'm sure you all probably know this already, but I say all this because we're in the middle of the worst socioeconomic crisis since the Great Depression and the worst environmental crisis in the history of human existence, and we must do something now to right the wrongs of the past, to create opportunities for the future. I don't know if many of you saw it, but last year there was an article about how a 300 square foot house in Santa Cruz sold for over $1 million. On Zumper.com, it stated that 54% of the households in Santa Cruz are renters, and the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Santa Cruz is $2,350 a month. There are help wanted signs covering many of the small businesses that we know and love in this town, and restaurant owners are struggling to find dishwashers even when they're paying them up to $20 an hour. With the cost of living far outpacing the increases in wages, we need to do everything we can to help drive the cost for working families down, and public transportation is part of the solution. More importantly, as our climate continues to get warmer every year from carbon emissions, we are seeing the predictions of the past become a reality. I can't remember the last year when I didn't hear that we had record-breaking fire seasons in the state of California. We continue to see increased drought. We're seeing increasingly longer and stronger hurricane seasons. And the time to do something about this was yesterday, which is why we must act now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Public transportation is not the final solution to all of our problems, but it is a means to provide safe, reliable, low-cost, low-carbon emitting transportation for people of all ages, income levels, and abilities that helps us get to where we need to go and reduce our carbon footprint. I sit on the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments board here in this region, and here in Santa Cruz County, in total for all the jurisdictions that are here, we're looking at being charged with creating up to over 12,000 units of housing over the next 8 to 10 years. In addition to this, many of the state laws are incentivizing the production of housing along transit corridors and near public transportation hubs. If this is the case, then it's our obligation to plan and invest in the public transit infrastructure that will be necessary to meet the demands of our future, not only in our city, but in our entire region. And I'm sure, like many of you, I keep hearing people say, yeah, rail would be great, but we don't have any money. Well, let me remind you of something. This year, the Biden administration just passed one of the best infrastructure bills in over half a century, which can provide some of the funds necessary to move forward with transit opportunities like rail in our community.
That's right. That's right.
And this became a reality because there was the political will to make it happen. California, as a state, is the 5th largest economy in the world. There are entire countries in this world that are poorer than our state that are making rail and public transportation a reality. So, pun intended, let's get on the train. Let's elect people who are going to support rail and public transit. Let's put our dollars where it makes sense. And let's do our part to make sure future generations have clean, safe, efficient public transportation, which includes rail here in our community.
Yes.
So I know I've gone on for way too long, but I'm passionate about public transportation, especially rail. When I got to ride the Costa Futura train last year, I can't tell you how many memories it brought back to me. And I was thinking of how many ways I could use that rail in the future to get around this county. I know that together that we can make this dream a reality. And in honor of Black History Month, I want to close by saying a few things. As a black man and a descendant of former slaves, when you were born into this country, you enter a reality with many odds stacked against you. And you are taught to fight for what you deserve and what is right. You find people in your community who are willing to stand with you. You join forces, and you fight back, because the history of black people in America is the history of all oppressed people around the world, and what we stand for and fight for now will benefit the next generation. So when Rosa Parks was told black people can't sit in the front of the bus, you know what she said? Yes, we can. When black people were told they couldn't vote, you know what they said? Yes, we can. When women were told that they couldn't vote, you know what they said?
Yes, we can.
When they told us you're never going to be able to elect a black president, you know what we said?
Yes, we can.
When LGBTQ people were told they would never be able to get legally married in the United States, you know what they said?
Yes, we can.
And when Latino farm workers were told they couldn't unionize, you know what they said? Sí se puede. So when they say you can't build passenger rail in Santa Cruz County, what do we say?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Justin Cummings. I'll be around. I'm going to collect signatures if you all want to support me running for county supervisor and get my name on the ballot. And I want to end by letting you all know that there will be an item on the City Council's agenda this week to oppose the abandonment of the freight line. And we encourage you all to come out to support us as we want to urge the City Council to write a letter to the RTC saying we do not want you to oppose abandonment of this freight line in our community. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, beautiful speaker. Thank you, Justin, so much. Before Tamara comes up, I just want to note one thing on what Justin said. He mentioned that, all these silver-tongued serpents keep saying in these meetings that there's no money. Well, guess what? About 2 weeks ago, I attended a grant meeting with the Department of Transportation and the Federal Railroad Association, and you should see the money that's coming available for all sorts of rail projects. Now here's the thing, and here's the tricky part that they don't tell you. Well, they actually say it at the meeting, but the RTC doesn't. They basically said at this grant meeting that we have to be prepared to apply for those grant funds, which means that we have a whole lot of work that we have to do ahead of time, including our environmental impact reports. And I asked the question, why is it that our RTC executive director isn't directing to have us prepare for these environmental impact reports so that we can then apply for the grants that were only going to be available for 60 to 90 days to apply, and for a total of about 5 or 6 years coming up. So folks, we got to be ready. We've got to tell our RTC members to help fight with us. And we have to get on board to making sure that we are ready to apply for these monies because they're coming up now. And that's the same for the state. Thank you. Tamara. This is Tamara from Youth for Climate Justice. She's our leader today. She's the voice of the young people that basically we're trying to save the planet for. Thank you. Give it up for Tamara.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tamara, and I'm so happy to be here speaking to you today on behalf of Youth for Climate Justice. As you might know, transportation is the largest factor of emissions in the United States. And what that means is that for us to solve climate change, we need to become less reliant on cars and build a system that centers around sustainable transportation. If you are here today, you already believe in the importance of equitable transit. But it's easy to say you support public transportation in the abstract. And for some reason, when it comes down to real issues, it becomes controversial. Right now, we have the opportunity to create a rail trail as well as a train. This is super important, especially from a social justice standpoint. Providing a train allows people who are not able to afford a car to be able to get around. Plus, it is an important step in building a city that is accessible by public transit, and it connects us to a broader transit plan. Also, Youth for Climate Justice is currently working on passing a state bill that would provide free bus passes for students in California under 18. This would not only help students learn how to use public transportation and create sustainable lifelong habits, it would help students get to school. To get this bill passed, we're going to need support from all of you guys. We need people to lobby our assembly members and to endorse the bill. And so we have a table right over there. If you see, I don't know who's over there right now, but if you're interested in getting involved in this campaign, we would love to work with you, and we have a sign-up sheet over there. So there's so much more that needs to be done. And it's our responsibility to make this happen here in our own town. So thank you so much to Equity Transit for organizing this event today, because today is just the beginning. Today has to just be the beginning. We are running out of time to stop climate change. And to stop it, we have to reimagine the way that our society runs. I believe that building a sustainable future, which includes public transportation, is our only choice if we are to have a future. Our end goal is simple. It is to ensure a livable planet for my generation and for future generations to come. A planet for everybody. And being here today, that is the first step towards change. So thank you all so much.
Thank you everyone for being here today. I'm Felipe Hernandez, former Watsonville City Council member, former mayor, and now Cabrillo College trustee and candidate for the 4th Supervisorial District for Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors. You know, a lot of times in the past, Watsonville's been quiet, and so people often ask me if the rail is important to South County, and my answer is always a strong yes. You know, over the last 3 weeks, we received over, is it on? Over the last 3 weeks, we received over 6,000 emails to preserve the rail and keep Roaring Camp a viable business in our county. I did a quick search to see how many of them came from South County, and about over 200 were from the greater Pajaro Valley. That's the most emails that I've ever received on any single issue in my 12 years of public office. You know, it's difficult for me to understand how we can put one of our premier tourist destinations in our county that attracts thousands of families and children and put it in jeopardy of closure for whatever reason. But what's more concerning about abandoning the rail lines in the north is that it sets a clock of demise for the entire rail line. I'm fundamentally opposed to any rail banking, which will most likely lead to the loss of the rail line. Yes, it's been said that if you lift the tracks, you lose the rail lines. And that's not a risk not worth taking. We need sustainable alternative modes of transportation from north to south. We need the rail trail now. Rail banking will do nothing to alleviate the parking lot some call Highway 1. Rail banking will do nothing to reduce greenhouses emitted every day on that parking lot number 1. Rail banking will do nothing to reduce single occupant vehicle miles traveled. Sadly, the one thing rail banking will accomplish is continue to promote inequities in our county. If we lose the rail line, if we lose freight and the possibility of an electric commuter train, Watsonville's 56,000 residents, which approximately 85% are Latino, stand to lose everything, from jobs that freight provides, from transportation equity and quality of life. We need to preserve that rail line. We need to protect our county's gems like Roaring Camp, as well as the assets that provide jobs in South County like Big Creek, Delmar Foods, Martinelli's. So I ended with a story of back when I was mayor. I had a delegation of workers, about 10 workers that came, and 9 of them were women, and I had one gentleman that was there, said, "Soy el único varón aquí." I'm the only guy here. And they were organizing to form a union with the Teamsters at Threshold Nutrition here in Santa Cruz. And they came into my office asking me to draft a letter of support for their efforts. They stated that about over 80% of their workers were from Watsonville, and mostly women. And I asked what their demands were, and they simply stated to move their start time from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I naively asked them, what about pay raises? Why just the shift change? And they replied, they spend all morning from 5 a.m. or earlier getting their kids ready for school, for daycare, and then they spend over an hour and a half on that highway, an hour and a half back, having to spend additional money on daycare for that quote-unquote highway time. If we started at 10 a.m., we could take our kids to school, and at 8 a.m., we could take our kids to daycare at 9:30 and get to work at 10 a.m. without traffic, and come home at 6:30 with less traffic, cutting over an hour of highway time a day, and that would save us over $20 a day, and that's $100 a week. They told me that what was more important than that $100 a week was the extra 9 to 10 hours a week that they would get to spend with their family. Sadly, the boss gave them a 56-cent raise, but didn't budge on the time change, and the union effort failed. I thought to myself, this is why we need rail trail for South County working families. This is why we need it. And when I think about transportation equity, I always go back and think about these strong women from Watsonville just trying to survive. We have to vote no on this millionaire-funded Greenway initiative. Thank you.
I like to hold it. All right. So, if you can hear the sound of my voice right now, if you can hear the sound of my voice, put your fist up. Everyone, even in the background, put your fist up for me one time. Put your fist up. And because it is Black History Month, I want y'all to repeat with me, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
I need your energy, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
You got beautiful voices, be loud and proud, say it, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
And as we honor a day of Miss Rosa Parks and many Black leaders before us and other leaders before us, a lot of them they enter situations that were fearful and always life-threatening. Even a situation such as Rosa Parks, as we celebrate Rosa Parks Day, that was a situation, even before her, it was many other leaders that sacrificed their time and effort to make sure we had equitable transit for everyone in the community. So that's important when I have you raise your fist up, you raise it with pride, you be fearless while you do it. So never take this for granted. And with that, I want to quote one of the many leaders that we just celebrated last month, Mr. MLK. And it's a quote that really carried me over. I'm just want to just repeat it real quick. So this quote that I've heard from MLK recently, he said, "We heard and live with the myth of time. And the only answer I can give to that myth is that time is neutral. It can be used either constructively or destructively. I must say to you that I am convinced that the forces of ill will has often used time much more effectively than the forces of goodwill. We may have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and violent actions of bad people, but the appalling silence and indifference of good people that will say, wait on time." And yes, indeed. And with me, I'm gonna hold this up. With many shots out. Before I get going, I want everyone to give a round of applause for the speakers that were before me right now. Please give them a big round of applause that spoke up before me. They're really great, powerful speakers. Also, give a big round of applause to all the organizers that you see tabling here today, as well as Equity Transit. And the reason why I hold this up is because I want to give a special thank you to my family member right now, because honestly, this issue of public transportation affects me very personally. Is because I honestly would not be here if it wasn't for this bus pass. You know, I borrowed this from my family member this morning, and with that, I wouldn't be able to make it to the west side. I caught the 66 this afternoon at 12 p.m. Kept timing it, so the issue of this quote time was trickling in my head. I was getting ready, getting my bandana ready, getting suited, and I was like 12 o'clock. So if you probably saw me on 41st Avenue earlier this morning, trucking it to make the 12 o'clock on time, and from there waited about 10 to 15 minutes for the 19 depart from the Santa Cruz Metro to take me from Santa Cruz Metro to the west side, where I met all the beautiful organizers and activists alongside to march with you all today. So I'm very thankful and blessed for this bus pass and for my family member for giving me this bus pass. So special shouts out to them. And with that, time has always affected me with this issue when it comes to public transportation. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, so being first born in Atlanta, Georgia, I was very privileged in a lot of ways with public transportation. I was blessed to live right across the street from what they call Kensington Station. At Kensington Station, you catch the MARTA train. It takes you right into downtown Atlanta. And from there, I moved to San Francisco, and I was very privileged again. Just right outside my window, I lived on 43rd Avenue in Terraville. And 43rd Avenue in Terraville, it's the L train line. They call it the Muni L train line. It takes you right to the San Francisco Zoo. But I was very privileged living on that train line to take me from school, to take me from other social gatherings. Then when I moved to Santa Cruz, I got off here on the Greyhound bus, and I was like, wow, this is very different from Atlanta or San Francisco. Just the often lack of resources when it comes to transportation. One of these issues affected me greatly, the lack of transportation as we grew into the pandemic. Me as an essential worker especially, it was very fearful when the pandemic first started. Everyone was worried about their health and well-being, and even before that, getting on the transit, it was very alarming having to, put your mask on, and then the first thing the bus driver will turn to ask you is, where are you going? Is it essential travel? And me in my worker's outfit, I was like, I'm trying to go to work so I can get paid. But even before that, transportation has always been an issue that affected me more personally. Even before the pandemic started, trying to find economic resources and opportunities out here in Santa Cruz County is very wide and thin. So originally, I took the 17, as Vanessa referenced earlier. I took Highway 17 all the way, and I was originally very dapper near. I was wearing a blue usher outfit. I was very proud to work at the San Jose SAP Center, where the San Jose Sharks played. And I was a Sharks fan at one point until it was a preseason game, and I remember time was in my head, and I felt the last bus to leave San Jose to take me back to Santa Cruz was 10:45 p.m. So the whole time watching the game, and then when the Sharks scored, everyone erupted and cheered loud at the top of their lungs except me. So I had to catch that last bus. So I often had to beg my employers every shift, can I please catch this last bus? I'm gonna be stranded here in San Jose if I don't get back to Santa Cruz in time. And so eventually I had to leave that employer because it was a great opportunity, but I didn't have resource with time. And from there, I thought, I'd find something locally. So even before the pandemic, I was a security being my size, I was shocked that I got it. I was security for the Catalyst in downtown Santa Cruz. So as fun as that was, working concerts, but again, time was in the back of my head because most of the time, most concerts, which people were excited to come for, most concerts don't end till probably after 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, which is understandable for concerts that get a little bit crazy, a little bit rambunctious. But at that time was in the back of my head. And that time was the last bus, which we heard earlier, the 71, to take me at least out of Santa Cruz back near where I live at in Capitola. It was at 11:45, and from there I would sometimes get off early, and sometimes I would get off late. So which means it wouldn't be any buses available beyond 12 o'clock at night. And obviously with concerts that end, it's a line of Ubers and Lyfts, but often not all the concert goers will have first dibs automatically. Many of them were inebriated, I must add. So obviously they're gonna have first dibs. And for me, it was a fearful time because calling a Lyft and Uber was something I didn't really want to do, but something I needed to do to get myself home for the night. And often it was fearful too, identifying as a black male, dressed in all black at 2 o'clock in the morning and awaiting an Uber driver who may be fearful of my presence, being a black male, dressed in all black at 2 o'clock in the morning, just trying to get home. And often not, it wouldn't be any lifts available, so I would walk from Pacific Avenue here in Santa Cruz all the way back to 41st Avenue to get myself home for the evening, for the night. And so it was repetitive, and then after that, decided wasn't best for me. And so even as the pandemic was coming slowly into Santa Cruz, I applied for a job merely like down the street from my house. And me, as we were blessed to be around the ocean, I'm not a surfer, but I was nearly close to getting a job at O'Neill's shop. And me, I never surfed a day in my life, but I was willing to stock wetsuits and sell it to you. But as I was waiting for a phone call back, it was on a Friday. I remember that Friday, timing. waiting on that call to come on Friday. But on that Friday, something very serious happened. As everyone know, everyone on their TV screens, they watched Governor Gavin Newsom announce a statewide shutdown. And the first thing that popped in my head was, well, I guess O'Neill's is not going to call me back anytime soon. And so with that, more time eluded me. And even my personal experiences getting involved as an organizer and activist, being viewed as one of the activists in Black Lives Matter, I didn't think I would be viewed that way, because my story simply started as during the pandemic, I needed to go from 41st Avenue to catch the bus at the Capitola Mall to pay my Metro phone bill. And when I was stopped and profiled by police, after that situation, I was first mad, but then I was like, I wish I had a car so I didn't have to deal with this situation. But then after that, George Floyd happened, which was very tragic, and it caught everyone's attention, caught everyone's fire. And it's befitting I'm in this very same spot is because after George Floyd, there's an organizer who's here today who I was very blessed to see, Miss Bella Bonner, who I just saw today at this event today. I never knew them a day in my life, and when I heard that Black Lives Matter was a march, my friend who's taking photos right now, he told me about it, and after work, I was like, maybe I can swing through after work if I have the time and schedule. So luckily, thankfully, a coworker, dropped me off using a work vehicle to drop me off. I didn't know how big the march was until I saw large crowds of large signs of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and large sum of people. I immediately hopped out of my coworker's work van and started marching along with you all. And so it got me inspired, it got me motivated to start doing marches and rallies and eventually leading my own Juneteenth march. And from there, when it came to marches and rallies, again, I'm still using a bus pass. So eventually a lot of marches and rallies are relates on timing, even events such as this. So most of the time I'm either carpooling or getting a ride from someone who's coming to the event. So definitely times affect me greatly. And so with that, I'm going to go to my notes real quick. And so this brings me to what we are here for today, which is for more equitable transit, more reliable transit, more transit associated and accessible for everyone, because this issue really is effective for me as a county leader and also as a central worker. Just the other day, I was just sitting at my job, and one lady who was in a walker, handicapped walker, normally someone wouldn't give this person the time of day, but I gave them the time and had a conversation with them when it comes to connecting. And they were telling me, I'm trying to get the Emory line, trying to get to social services, get more needed medical services, but I don't have the reliable resources to catch the 4 Emory line that take me to the county building just nearby. And that really affected me personally. It really hit me. It really, struck me deeply. And so with that, to address this issue, it's a philosophy I've been preaching in many, many events such as this one. It's called a term called community power. Now say it with me, community power.
Community power.
You got beautiful voices, but again, be loud and proud. Community power.
Community power.
That's what I'm talking about. So the first step to community power is unity. Say it with me, unity.
Unity.
I need you to say it a little bit louder for people just walking up like, what's going on? Say it louder.
Unity.
That's right. Unity is very important when it comes to community power, because even with issues such as transportation, equitable transportation, we're so divided. Even though we're all here today, there's many people who may not agree with us. And so that's the issue right there when it comes to unity, is we're in such divisive times politically and socially. It's more important than ever to establish unity. Knowing someone you don't know, even if you see someone from Greenway, you need to have that conversation with them. And with that comes a second level of community power, which is education. Say it with me.
Education.
You gotta say it louder. You gotta say it one voice. Beautiful voices, be loud and proud. Say it with me. Education.
Education.
Education is greatly important. And with that, we heard a lot of stories and we heard a lot of folks. And so even with my story, it comes with me opening up with you all. And so it's a term with education I want to say with you all. It's called getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I want you to say it with me.
Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Okay. You guys are getting it together. I need you to feel your energy right now. It's called getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Because with division, it's getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. You're getting comfortable with people you may not agree with or you may not like in some ways. And that's very important when it comes to education, is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because as organizers and as leaders today, people that are here today, it's more important than ever to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, to address issues such as this one today. And with that, education is greatly important right now in our society more than ever, as we've been seeing across our states and as we've been seeing across our news screens when it comes to critical race theory. And I digress as a leader, so definitely education is really important. And with that, it comes political change. I want y'all to say it with me, political change.
Political change.
Say it louder, beautiful voices, loud and proud.
Political change.
And with that, you all seem very bright and very educated, and I love you all for it. But I'm going to quiz you guys real quick. Yes, indeed, I will quiz you. I always do this. So, with the sound of my voice, raise your fist up if you know every single city council member in your area. It's all good. You got to get